in boys' bathrooms. John Tory is out, and Skye might be coming in. The Trucker Convoy and the Emergencies Act, and the Tops Killer behind bars forever. This is the Arana Nation.
National emergency. Important instructions will follow.
We will not comply.
Why the hell should I?
Nation. These leftists are not progressive. I'll tell you that right now.
We've won. I'm going to tell you, we have won.
The Canadian media is no good. It is no good. Welcome, everybody. This is the Commander-in-Chief of the Arana Nation, the land where the masses shall walk barefoot because the ground is so holy. I am Michael Arana, and I've got a very special guest here. We have Kevin J. Johnston of the Freedom Report, and we will be talking about the fact that a school in New Hampshire, a school board in New Hampshire, is trying to, they tried to and failed to take out urinals from the boys' bathroom because of one transgender. But because the students stood up and fought back, the school board stood down and put the urinals back, which gives me hope for the future of mankind. So without further ado, Kevin J. Johnston.
Hey, Michael Arana, I always got to say it's a pleasure and an honor to see you. And I got to remind the crowd that it took not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but 6 Toronto cops to move you 3 feet, and then 2 more on top of that to take you down. And all you tried to do is walk into a restaurant. Dude, you're a tank. that was a highlight of my life, pal. It really
that was great, and I don't regret it, and I would do it again too. They had no right to do what they did, and you know, the people who are responsible for that, primarily John Chicken Chin Tory. I'm so glad he's gone. We'll talk about that a little later. But Kevin, I was on your channel on BitChute a few days ago, and I came across a very interesting interesting video about a school in New Hampshire trying to take out the urinals from the boys' room.
Oh, they did. They did take them. They actually covered them in black garbage bags, and they had also put for a short while they put some yellow tape around it to make it look like the police had been there. It was the same kind of yellow tape that you can buy at a Halloween shop, which just says caution on it. So they wanted to frighten the heterosexual boys in there into not peeing in the urinals. There was I think 6 per bathroom and only 2 toilets in the stalls. You had to pee in the toilet because there was one psychopath mother, and I put her in my video, that was stating that we need to honor and make transgendered individuals feel secure. So because the one boy that wants to wear a skirt didn't want to stand up to pee, the rest of the boys were not allowed to stand up to pee. Right. The school also tried to state that it's healthier for men to squat or sit while urinating, something to which there is absolutely no scientific backings on, and I mean zero. And they ended up making themselves look like fools. So what do we say here, Mike? We say that everyone's lost their minds, or it's that everyone's become such a liquid coward that they will kowtow to the musings of a psychopathic mother who raises her voice a couple of times. So I'm saying the word "so" a lot because I'm thinking back. I was born in 71.
Yeah.
In 1978, 1980, 1985, 91, if you had proposed this kind of a concept, you had a pair of brass knuckles across your teeth.
Of course.
The society would have corrected you. That's what would have happened. But instead, we punish 99.9% of the boys that go to the same school because one kid wants to behave like a loser. There's no such thing as a transgender human being. In fact, I'm going to be on a show tomorrow with a transgendered individual. I have no ill will towards the individual. He is a nice guy. I don't know. She is a nice chick. It is a nice it. Whatever it might be. Tomorrow, we're going to clear the air on this. but there's no such thing. You don't magically have a penis that turns into a vagina on its own. You do not turn into a guy with breasts unless you do one of two things: gain 300 pounds of fat, in which case you will, or get breast implants, but you're still going to be just a guy with breast implants. That's all you're going to be.
Exactly. There is no such thing. And I've told people, by the way, my girlfriend, her alma mater, her high school alma mater, they actually did the same thing. But unfortunately, the children didn't stand up against it, and the urinals are still outside of the. They took them out. I remember we were at a basketball game at that school, and I went to the boys' room. I thought I was in the wrong room. I thought I was going to be arrested for some kind of because there were no urinals. And I'm thinking to myself, where are the urinals? And my girlfriend, oh, they took them out because there was one kid.
Sorry, they removed them?
They removed them, Kev. They didn't even put the black.
That's expensive.
They took them out because of, I think there was one transgender kid that year who complained about urinals and things. And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, for years, since time immemorial, heterosexual men have stood up to use the bathroom. Now, I will say I've heard the same thing about, oh, your prostate and sitting down, but nevertheless, that's not what men do. Men have always stood up. Is it unhealthy or not? Well, there's a lot of things that are unhealthy that people just do out of habit.
Smoking, alcohol, drugs, 4 or 5 cans of Coca-Cola or Pepsi or RC Cola a day.
And not to mention all of the transgender surgery, all the transgender medications that they take. That's unhealthy too. But you see, the thing about it is that you're in a men's room. You can't go in a woman's room. Rightfully so. You'll be knocked out. So you're in a men's room. Men, heterosexual men, they stand up. So you say you want your rights. What about the rights of the heterosexual people who want to stand up to take a leak?
That's the problem. Okay, so in North American culture and in the Western world's culture, it was your rights will be upheld until your rights impede the rights of others, in which case they're no longer rights. It's an argument that must be duked out in the courts, to which this was not fought in the courts. The transgender or loser, the boy who's a loser did not take this to any court. He did not file a motion in New Hampshire court. No judge stated that this had to be done. There was no reason for the school board to capitulate to the musings of a loser, but they did. And the students fought back, which they should. So I wanted to clear up here that if you want something major to be changed in a publicly funded institution, you need to win a battle in court. Whereas the school board decided they didn't care about the rule of law. They didn't care about the rights of the other 99.9% of the boys there who now had nowhere to pee. They just went ahead and made this update so that they could look like heroes in the eyes of God knows who, because I can tell you very few people support this type of behavior or this type of thinking.
I agree.
They don't support it at all.
Yeah, I know some of the biggest lefties who say that this is ridiculous. I'm glad that they put the urinals back, because the children, I don't know if it was just the boys or if it was everybody, they protested. They said, this has gone too far.
Well, they all did. The girls were protesting as well, because this particular loser who has a penis and testicles, apparently, was freely walking into the girls' washroom. And I know that girls do not want boys in their washroom at all. The unisex bathroom concept has failed everywhere it's ever been implemented. It's not a good idea. And let's be honest here. I don't want girls looking at my sausage either when I'm taking a leak. I mean, what if they want to say, hey, it's only half an inch. We were expecting 2 inches because you're a really good public figure. I mean, I don't want women in the bathroom with me, not for any reason other than I want to get done what I got to do and I want to leave. It's not like I enjoy urinating. I certainly don't enjoy defecating. And I'm not really a fan of the process of shaving. I like the smooth face when I'm done, but it's a nuisance. And I don't want to be sharing that time with women in general, or anyone really. I just truly do not. Actually, funny enough, I just got a phone call from our good friend Rio there, who's my search engine optimization manager. He is a flaming gay guy. He's
Yeah,
actually
a good
he's
friend
come
of
on the he's a good friend of both of ours.
Yeah.
He's been on my show a number of times stating that the idea of seeing a naked woman makes him sick to his stomach. And he hates all of this LGBTQ stuff. He's dead set against it.
Is that
So
what he
he's
called
actually
you about? Is
sorry.
that what he's calling you about now?
No, he's probably calling me to ask me if I want to join him for wings or something tonight, which
Oh, okay. Well,
I most likely will do.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he's a hell
Well,
of a guy.
by the way, speaking of all this whole transgender business, you've heard about. I saw a comment there about that. You heard about the teacher in Oakville with those huge breasts. You heard
Yes.
that story. What? I mean, what? I really didn't follow it as much as I probably should have, because I know these stories just irritate me, because this
They
country
irritate
is
me.
really going down. But what is your opinion on this nonsense? I mean, what would you do if, well, your children are not in high school anymore, but if they were and they had this teacher as a teacher, what would you do?
I'd find out where the guy. Okay, this is me telling you the truth, and this is it's not a reality because I don't have kids that go to school anywhere in Ontario. In fact, I've pulled. There was a point when I did pull my kids out of school because of the way that the school was working, and I homeschooled them myself until I found them a better institution to go to. And I actually had the time of my life homeschooling my kids for almost, I'd have to say it was better part of 4 months before I found them another school to go to that was less radical. But some guy goes in there with fake breasts and wants to behave like this in front of my kids. And then the school board tells me that as a parent, I must accept this and like it and stay quiet about this. Otherwise, they're going to call the Children's Aid Society, and Children's Aid will take my kids away from me without court orders, which is what they do. That's him.
Yeah,
I'm a big believer, Mike, is that once every avenue has failed, you go to the school, you protest. They say no. You take them to court. The court upholds this idiot's right to wear these stupid things.
yeah.
You
Get rid of this. Is disgusting.
you then appeal to the public, and the public doesn't support you. You then go to the police and say, I want this guy charged. The cops say no. You then go to the courts again, and you try what's called a private information, where you can file a criminal charge without police intervention. If all of that fails, the only option left is violence.
Yeah.
And I'd have to put a mask on. I'd have to find out where this guy lives. I'd have to just write down the days and times that he walks out the door and deal with him myself.
Right. Because
That's
I
the
mean,
problem.
it's unacceptable for a teacher to go to school looking like this. I mean, just picture this, Kevin. Imagine if a teacher, a straight teacher, who claims that he loves women, and he's a beer drinking, hamburger eating, heterosexual man, and he loves women, and he goes to school with a huge penis attached to him. Would that be appropriate?
Well, it would be appropriate if he found some way to argue it with the school board that he is part of a new religion, and this is part of their religion. If he was to actually make that claim, then the school board would call it appropriate, and it would be appropriate according to the school's rules for him to do so. But it's not socially acceptable, and it's not socially appropriate. So I need to be very clear on my words, is that somebody would state that it is. And again, we would not have any recourse whatsoever because the police, the Halton Regional Police, refused to charge this guy.
Yeah, I know. This is disgusting.
It is.
It's really filthy. And I will say this, and I don't care. I've always, I don't care about what people do in their private life and all that stuff. But I will say this, and I'll go down to my grave saying this. There are only two genders. You cannot be a woman if you were born a man, no matter how many surgeries you get, and vice versa. And if anybody has a problem with me saying that, take me to jail.
No, you live in the United States. You have the right to say what you say.
Oh no, I'm actually, no, it's bad everywhere. I'm actually in Canada right now, so.
Oh, then we can't say what we want.
Oh, I'll still say it though. It's okay. I'll still say it. And if I have to be hanged for it, if I have to be crucified for it, so be it. Because there has to be some kind of common sense here. We cannot cater to people who have
Okay.
these mental illnesses, Kevin.
Then I'm going to make a couple of quick comments. Number one is I have to correct you. The term is not gender; it's actually sex.
Or sex, yeah.
Okay, gender is a word that was brought forward to begin this process about 45 years ago. It doesn't mean anything from the standpoint of medicine or in biology. Period.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone that uses the term gender, stop using that term. It's sex.
I only use that term only because, sometimes, and I know what you're saying, and I've heard you say it, and I agree with you. I just say that because that's what people understand. And maybe what I should start doing is say, by the way, this isn't the thing, but because this is what people understand for now, let me use this term. But I know exactly what you're saying.
Yes, and you know me, right? I've got a very large vocabulary. I've spent years studying English. My vocabulary is over 120,000 words. So I correct people only because I do want there to be a common understanding. And the big problem with language now is that we have absolutely every idiot in the world who's got a video camera like this and a headset like this and a telephone in their hand can now create their own words. And for some reason, if they are a member of the far left, those words are allowed to be used and accepted. No, it's not on my watch, man. I'm not going to allow that to happen, period. So when I correct people, it is because we need to have common language that absolutely all of us use, where it's the same meanings for the same words all of the time.
Yeah.
We cannot allow the left wing to get away with utilizing this baby talk, this drivel.
Exactly.
And in writing, it's called screed. It's garbage. None of it is real. So, Mike, I wanted to say to you, though, is that our society is not going to revert to a sense of normalcy until we have a very serious crash.
Yeah.
We need an absolute economic crash. We need a complete societal crash where people don't have more than one meal a day, where people do no longer have access to clean water, where people are losing their homes. And it's going to happen, folks. It is going to happen. You have to make all of society completely desperate so that they go to revolutionary thought processes, revolutionary actions.
And they do things that are out of the box.
Well, we need, like some of the examples we can use here would be when Romania entered almost 10 years of decrepity. It had to fall apart. It had to break before it became a better country. That is how human beings work. Societies get built up. They meet their precipice, their peak, and then they crash. You were born after me by a couple of years. I saw Canada at its absolute peak performance, 1988. That was the best it's ever going to be. Now I'm seeing all over the Western world decline. There's a movie called Revenge of the Nerds, which all of you, I'm sure, have heard of. I love this movie. I've seen it 1,000 times. One of the characters asks another character while they're high on joints or on marijuana, he says, would you rather live in a civilization's ascendancy or in its decline? And I have had the opportunity to live in both.
Yep.
Ascendancy, peak, and complete and total decline. I'm telling you now, everybody, it has to crash completely. Canadians haven't suffered enough yet. They're still comfortable. They still have their 100-inch television sets, their espresso makers, all that nonsense. But when they lose all of that, then they're finally going to understand my words. And that is, you now need to become revolutionary in your thought processes and then eventually in your actions. And FLT Newsflash, is there a way we could change it from crashing?
No, I don't think we can change it from crashing because I think it needs to happen. I think it has to happen. I think it's going to happen a lot sooner than
it must happen. FLT, it has to happen before it can get better. There's no political solution because every politician in this country is bought off. Most of the judges are bought off. And take it from a guy who has court appearance number 392 in the last 5 years this coming Thursday. The courts are completely corrupt. They are not there for justice. They are there to perpetuate themselves and for no other reason. So if it all crashes, then LGBTQ stuff doesn't matter. The next Marvel movie doesn't matter. The next DC movie doesn't matter. arguments about who would win in a fight between Spider-Man and Wonder Woman. These things will no longer matter. Your next meal will matter. And when human beings are pushed to that limit where they need to find their next meal and they don't care about trivial, arbitrary garbage, society then can start to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
And not until.
Kevin, it's been a great pleasure. We're at the 20-minute mark. Where can people find you?
You can throw the address back up at the bottom there.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go. freedomreport.ca, everybody. That is my Rumble channel. We broadcast live there. My podcast is every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Calgary time, 9 p.m. Toronto, New York Eastern time. We cover a wide swath of subjects. And, well, there was a point when we were the number one podcast because we were doing it 5 days a week. The Canadian government has stolen almost $250,000 from me. So we can only afford to do the show 1 day a week these days. But we still do it. It's religiously on that day and time. We're not going to change that anytime soon. And you can follow me on Instagram as well. Just my name. Put my name back up there, guys. On Instagram, on Telegram, on Friendavoo. Oh God, Facebook. I'm on all of them. Just my name, Kevin J. Johnston.
Absolutely.
You'll certainly find me there. Michael,
and
Kevin, pleasure and an honor as always.
Yeah, you just so you know, how does it feel to be the first guest on the Arana Nation Sunday show?
An honor. It's an honor. It's an honor to know you as well, my friend. It really is. I'm glad to know you.
Thank you very much for joining us, Kevin, and we'll see you around.
You will indeed. Take care.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with what's going on here in Toronto with John Tory, and will Chris Skye be the next mayor of Toronto? Miss Engineer, take us into break.
We need something different. We need change. And we have a very unique opportunity for the first time since I've been alive. John Tory resigning was a sign. Everybody saw that John Tory resigned. Before I even knew about it, people were calling me and saying, you need to run for mayor. And I took it as a joke until I saw that it was trending on Twitter and Google. And I was like, holy crap, I might have some support here. And then it occurred to me that I also have over 20 years in the planning and development industry from the private sector. So not only do I know how to deal within the bureaucracy of government where they have unlimited time and money, I had to do so within the budget and deadline constraints of the private sector. So not only do I know how to work through them, I know how to do it efficiently. Very efficiently. And then it occurred to me that even the people that do not like me, even the people that, if you ask them, will say the words they hate me. If you ask those same people, how would you feel about Chris Skye fighting for you? They change their mind real quick. And I seriously considered it, and I seriously considered running, and I seriously considered announcing it. But today I am going to announce that I fully intend to run for mayor of Toronto. Chris for mayor! Chris for mayor! Chris for mayor! Chris for mayor!
You were just watching the video of Chris Skye, who has just announced that he will be running for mayor of Toronto after the chicken chin, I call him, John Tory, resigned. His real name is Christopher Sarkozy or something like that. I have to learn to pronounce that. But I'm really happy about this. You know, I knew Chris before he became famous, before he had his own Wikipedia page. I knew him because me, along with Chris and many others, Kellyanne Wolf and others, were the earliest people to be against these lockdowns. So the first time I ever met Chris was at Queen's Park, when nobody except the few people that were there, which wasn't even that few, it was quite a large crowd, knew who he was. But John Tory is now gone from the mayor's office, and now it's Jennifer McKelvey, who is the acting mayor of Toronto right now. So uh, there is no mayor. I don't know if we can we get a picture of Jennifer, maybe. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But Toronto has no mayor. Jennifer McKelvey is only the acting mayor. And I'm going to say this. You know, I did support the fact that John Tory resigned, but not because he was screwing around with some woman. I don't care about that. That doesn't bother me. And yes, we do actually have a picture of a Jennifer McKelvey, the new acting mayor of Toronto. We're gonna put that up momentarily now. I couldn't care less about what John Tory does in his private life. But what I have a problem with is that he was doing this during a time when he was telling everyone else that they had to social distance, that they had to keep 2 meters, 6 feet away from everybody, and all this stuff. And meanwhile, he was rubbing up on top. Maybe she was on top. I don't know. And I really don't care. It doesn't matter. With some strange woman that he was working with. Meanwhile, we weren't able to even have a drink in the park with our friends. But he is in the bed on top or on bottom with this young 20-something-year-old girl during that time. John Tory should not only resign, he should be run over by a police horse. He should have a bag put on his head, and he should be picked up by the police and taken and thrown into a jail like I was and many other people were who didn't follow the coronavirus mandates, as he didn't do. You know, you have old senior citizens, as Glenn Atwell says, dying alone in nursing homes. They weren't even allowed to see their families. Their families, their daughters and their sons and their grandchildren, great-grandchildren. No, you couldn't see them. The police would come and probably beat you and probably even kill you and run you over with a police horse like they did in Ottawa. That's what the police would do. But John Tory is sleeping in a bed with someone who's not his wife. I don't care about if he's cheating on the wife. Maybe the wife is no good. I think it's the wife doesn't want to be with him. I think that's because I've seen what John Tory's wife will. John Tory's wife, Barbara, beautiful woman, beautiful, beautiful. Ooh, ooh, ooh. John Tory's wife, beautiful. It's her who can't stand him and his chicken chin. She can't stand him. Who can stand someone like John Tory? Who would want to be with? He probably can't perform. Yeah, my bosses are saying maybe he couldn't perform. It's probably, I don't know, but so that's not the problem. Barbara's not giving it to John, so John is finding it somewhere else. That's fine, but he did it when he was preventing everyone from hanging out with people who were either in their family or not. As I said, senior citizens in the nursing home, wasting away, no one allowed to visit them. Meanwhile, this SOB is hanging out with some young woman who is not his wife. And I find that unforgivable. So he can go and jump in the nearest hell. And I'm so glad that he's gone. As for Skye, well, I what can I say? I will support Skye for mayor. Will he win? I don't know. Maybe they'll rig it. Maybe they'll ballot stuff. Maybe they'll do something to the computers. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is he is running. And that's all that matters. And the fact is that he's not surrendering. I know a lot of people say, oh, politics doesn't mean anything. Elections don't mean anything. Voting doesn't mean anything. Oh, it doesn't matter anymore. No, I'm sick and tired of hearing that. I don't even pay attention. I don't even give that the time of day. You mean to tell me that you're, because it doesn't matter, which it might, which, yeah, they might be rigging it, but because they're rigging it, you're going to just surrender and give up? Well, I have no time for defeatists and giving up. Chris Skye is getting in there. They may try to rig it, but all I can say is that if we come out in force to support him, if we vote for him strongly, if we swarm the ballot box, he can make it. He can make it. Because you have to remember something. Rigging elections is not a magic trick. It's done by human beings. It's a very difficult thing to rig an election. It's not a walk in the park. So if we make it harder for them by swarming the ballot boxes and voting for him, by swarming his events and cheering him on, by canvassing and doing all sorts of things, he can have a chance. He can have a chance. And if they rig it, well, then they rig it. But let's not make it easy for them. Let's not make it easy for them. I will endorse Chris. I endorse Chris Skye for mayor of Toronto. Arana Nation does, I should say. I don't say I say we as a channel, as a nation, we endorse Chris Skye. I endorse Chris Skye as the commander-in-chief of this nation. But I'm really, 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 I should say this. I don't think that John Tory should just walk away into the sunset for what he did. And nobody seems to be talking about the fact that, hey, this guy broke his own rules. Even Doug Ford, Doug Ford is so pathetic. Did you guys see Doug Ford the other day talking about, oh, I don't want John Tory to leave. I don't want him to go anywhere. Doug Ford, you mean you're going to let this guy who broke your rules, you're going to let him stay on as mayor? He broke your own rules. Doug Ford, he broke your rules. He broke your coronavirus rules. And you mean you just, oh, John Tory, come back, John, come back. Oh, this boy broke your rules, Doug. You mean to tell me, Doug, that this guy who stomped all over your rules by screwing around with somebody who was not in his family, and you just gonna go on your knees and beg for him to come back? Something is wrong with Doug Ford. I can't believe I ever supported him in 2018. I don't regret it, because I don't regret anything I do most of the time. Because there's a reason. Look at him. Look at Doug Ford there on his knees begging for John Tory to come back after John Tory walked all over his rules. And then he wants him back. No, John Tory's gone, and I think you should go too. So I don't believe you followed your own rules either. I don't think any of these people followed those coronavirus rules. They knew it was BS. The difference between me and them is that I knew this was BS, and I told people we should not be going along with this. But John and Doug and all these other globalists and sellouts and traders and tokens for globalists were going along with the medical globalist mantra of lockdowns and social distance and vaccine mandates and doing all this stuff, but they weren't following their own rules. And that's what I cannot forgive. I will not forgive that. I think John Tory needs to answer for that. And I find it strange that nobody else is talking about this. Nobody else is talking about the fact that, A, John Tory broke his own rules that he imposed on us, which caused me to get arrested at Adamson Barbecue. It was John Tory, John Tory is the reason why I was locked up. It was John Tory, because he is the one who called riot police to Adamson Barbecue because he knew we weren't going to take this lying down. And we went to Adamson, and I'm glad that I did what I did. I'm glad I did. And I would do it again. I'd do even worse. I'd do even worse. I'm glad I did what I did. In fact, we have a picture of that. Let me just show that. There I am. There I was there at Adamson. There I was. Bust that police officer upside his head. Do it again, too. Do it again too. I should have broken the window to Adamson Barbecue, and all the protesters should have swarmed the restaurant and occupied the restaurant. How about that? It was John Tory the reason why Adamson Barbecue has lost business and I was locked up. And while he was sending his bouncers, his thugs, his pigs to come and beat me and try to kill me and try to kill Adam, he was screwing around with somebody. At the time, there was no vaccine there, and I don't think they were using masks when they were doing it either. I don't think I don't think they were doing what Theresa Tam, Theresa Tam is the one who suggested people use masks when they screw. Anyway, I'm done with this topic here now. I'm glad that Skye is running for mayor of Toronto, and I support him. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. The fact remains is that I've not been silenced. I never was silenced, and I'm never going to be silenced. Just because YouTube and Facebook and Instagram took me off of their globalist platforms doesn't mean that I've been silenced. So where else can you find Arana Nation? Every Sunday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on FLTV. But I also post that same show on BitChute.com. That's BitChute.com/Arana Nation. Subscribe to me on BitChute and follow me on TruthSocial.com/@Arana Nation. And over there, I do the same thing that I did on Facebook and on Instagram. I'll never go back to Facebook again. I sure as hell won't go back to Instagram again. And I definitely won't do anything like TikTok or Twitter. Even though Elon Musk runs it, I'd rather just forget about those mainstream media platforms. Once you dump me, I don't go back. And of course, watch Arana Nation every Sunday, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. on FLTV. Look forward to seeing you there. All right, so the the Emergencies Act inquiry has come out with their findings, and they predictably have said that the Emergencies Act was an appropriate use of the Emergencies Act. That's what they said about a few days ago. You all remember with the trucker convoy, and that was one of the most righteous, that was one of the most revolutionary, most amazing events to ever come out of Canada. It was that trucker convoy really, really gave me hope for the future. That trucker convoy was one of the greatest acts that Canadians have ever done. Ever since Canadians stormed Vimy Ridge. That was the best thing they ever did since Canadians stormed Vimy Ridge and Passchendaele. Now, the Liberal-led inquiry has come out and said that the Emergencies Act, which Justin the Tarface Mac Daddy Trudeau imposed on Canada, surrendering and giving up the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, suspending the Charter of Rights and Freedoms because he wanted to get rid of the trucker convoy. They say that's appropriate. Now, first of all, by the way, isn't it funny how the Emergencies Act is always imposed every time a Trudeau's in power? I mean, it's strange every time. And I believe that the only time the Emergencies Act has ever been imposed is when Liberals are in power. Pierre Trudeau, Justin's father, imposed the predecessor to the Emergency Act, which is the War Measures Act, and he did that when the FLQ, which was a liberation separatist, the armed wing of the separatist movement in Quebec, when they started kidnapping a bunch of important politicians and diplomats. They started kidnapped James Cross and Pierre Laporte, and they were blowing up everything in Montreal, and they were just out of control. They were badass out there in Montreal. That was the armed wing, and Pierre Trudeau imposed the War Measures Act. And what he did was he had soldiers all over Ottawa, even though the problems were not happening in Ottawa. It was all in Montreal. But that was Pierre Trudeau had the War Measures Act. And yeah, we have a picture of the FLQ crisis and the October crisis there. That was the last time the Emergencies Act, or as it was called, the War Measures Act, was imposed. And that was Pierre Trudeau. Now, Justin Trudeau, the tar-faced Mac Daddy, imposes the Emergencies Act to get rid of the truckers. And it's like, it's always only Trudeaus have ever imposed martial law on the country. So it's just something I've thought about. So anyway, I don't believe anything that this inquiry says. This inquiry was liberal run. It was liberal led. Okay, anybody who takes seriously the findings of this inquiry, this Emergencies Act inquiry, is something is wrong with them. Maybe they need to be sent to some psychiatric ward or something like that. Because how could I believe or take seriously anything that this inquiry says when it's all a bunch of liberals? The fact of the matter is that this trucker convoy, I believe, was done quite peacefully. In fact, I think maybe it was a little too peaceful. Maybe they should have ramped it up a bit. But people say that they were blocking roads. From what I remember, there was many opportunity for people to still go to work and do their things. When the police told them to stop honking their horns, they stopped honking their horns, which I think they shouldn't have done. There was a lie on the media which said that the truckers were stealing food, and actually what the truckers were doing were serving food to the city, serving pizzas and serving things to the city. I don't think the city of Ottawa had seen as much food as they've ever seen until the truckers came. They were serving homeless people food. There were stories about how there was swastikas and all this stuff. Well, now more and more proof has come out that the person who was flying those swastikas was actually from Justin the Tar-Faced Mac Daddy Trudeau's inner circle. And we do know for a fact that the guy who was flying the Confederate flag, the rebel flag, out there in Ottawa was actually a stooge, because when he was found out on camera, he walked away because he knew that he was discovered. So everything about that thing was a lie. I don't think Canadians even are falling for it. But the bottom line is that Emergencies Act didn't need to come in. But to be honest with you, I really don't care. The fact that they had to go to such extreme measures means that we won. It means that we scared them. Remember, Justin the Tar-Faced Mac Daddy Trudeau, he ran away from Ottawa when the trucks came. Nobody was gonna hurt him. Why would we hurt him to make a martyr out of it? I say we, but I'm not a part of it. I was not in Ottawa at the time. I wish I was. But when I say we, I mean the movement. The movement. It's not just one group and the other. It's all of us fighting for freedom. So that's why I say we. But he ran away. He ran away from Ottawa. So this whole thing of the Emergencies Act is just, I think it's just the fact that every time a Trudeau is in power, the Emergencies Act come in. because remember, Trudeau says that that the country he supports and the country he looks up to the most is China because of its authoritarian regime. He said it. It's not my words, it's him. And before that, Pierre Trudeau, Trudeau, Justin's alleged father, was running around Montreal in a Nazi uniform during World War II. There he is there. That's Pierre Trudeau running around Montreal in a Nazi uniform. That's him there. I didn't take that picture. That's him. That picture was taken long before I was born. So there's something about the Trudeaus which likes authoritarianism. Every time they're in power, Canada goes into martial law. It's just something that's in their blood. And one thing I was wanting to, me and Kevin were talking about in the very first segment. You know, Kevin has said. Remember when Kevin said he has seen the rise of Canada? He's seen Canada at its best, and now this is Canada at its worst. Well, let me tell you, before Trudeau, before all this stuff, Canada was a great, great, great nation. Before Pierre, before all of this, when we were storming the Vimy Ridge and Passchendaele in World War I, when we had the fourth largest mill, we were a great nation. And then Trudeau came along, the first one. And then ever since then, we've been going downhill. Ever since then, we've been going downhill, and I think we're at rock bottom. I call it the curse. People make fun of me when I say, "Oh, Canada's under a curse," but we are under a curse. We are under a curse. I mean, look at the amount of crime that's going on, the amount of drugs around. You go to small towns in Ontario, people, St. Catharines, which used to be a Ned Flanders community, and you see young people just walking around on drugs. Their shirts are filthy, dirty. Everybody's homeless. Nobody can find a job. All the jobs are gone to other countries. It's sad. And what these truckers did, I believe, was revolutionary. I support them. I support them 100%. I'm not ashamed to say it. I love and not only did I support the truckers in Ottawa, I support the truckers at the border as well. I know Pierre Poilievre, the new leader of the Conservative Party, who I will support most likely in the next election. He also says he supports the truckers in Ottawa, but he says that he doesn't support the truckers at the Coutts border because they blocked critical infrastructure. As far as I'm concerned, these vaccine mandates, these mask mandates, these COVID-19 mandates, which destroyed our community and we're living with the consequences now, I think that was so bad. It called for blocking critical infrastructure. So I supported the Coutts border truckers as well as the truckers in Ottawa as well, both of them. And the fact that they had to impose the Emergencies Act means that we won. We won. And I'll tell you, we've won this COVID battle. They've gotten rid of ArriveCan. The mask mandates, for the most part, are going, and they're going, and they're going. They've now gotten rid of the mask mandates at all the Service Canada centers. I'm not vaccinated. I know that YouTube doesn't like to hear that. And, I know my bosses at FLTV, they get worried when I start to veer in this direction, but I'll be very quick. I'm not vaccinated. I never will be. I'm saying right now, I'm sorry. And if that costs me a few dollars of YouTube revenue, well, so be it. But I'll back off now. But I'm just saying, they lost. They lost. So don't get disheartened by this inquiry saying that the Emergencies Act was necessary. Don't be disheartened by that. Because the fact is we already won. And we are going to continue to win. And we're going to continue fighting until these globalists are destroyed. So with that being said, we're going to take one more quick break, and then we will get into our final topic. and then I will reply to some of the messages that you have been sending and do a Q&A. If the government of Ontario, the people who make these rules, the chief medical officer doesn't believe that the mask is important, why the hell should I? And furthermore, if you think that it's so important, why don't you wear it? And leave us the hell alone. Wear a shield if you want. Wear 2 masks if you want. Wear 3, wear 10, wear 2 shields as well. So I was in Buffalo the other day, and it's very strange how certain things happen. You all remember the Tops shooting, the shooting at the supermarket in Buffalo, where the racial criminal Peyton Gendron, who, by the way, nobody else talked about it, and YouTube might not want to hear about this, but he had a symbol on his bulletproof vest, which was the same symbol that the Azov battalion in Ukraine have. And that was during that whole Ukraine thing. He had that same symbol. But anyway, we'll forget about that. But okay. He was just sentenced to life in prison. And it's very funny how I was in Buffalo the same time he was being sentenced. And not only was I in Buffalo, I was around that Tops that he shot up. So what I decided to do, I did take some pictures, but sadly I didn't take them the right way. But maybe one day I'll show them to you. And I went there to that Tops, and it was really quite moving when I went in there. The first thing that you see is the windows. They have some I don't know, some African poetry or something like that. And then when you go into the Tops, there's like a picture of Martin Luther King and some flowers and everything. And there's a waterfall in there. And there's like a message about how we will never forget and all this sort of thing. And it was so beautiful in there. I just wanted to share that with you. I really wish I had those clips. One day I'll show them to you, and one day we'll fix them up and show them. But it was really moving, and it's funny. I had never, when I went into that grocery store, I've never been into a grocery store where, especially in the inner city, where people are shopping and they're so disciplined. It's like there were a lot of people in there, but it's like a respectful type of shopping. And the music and the loudspeakers, it was like soothing music, and it was really touching. It was quite something. And I'm glad that guy is going to jail forever. It's a shame they don't have well, I shouldn't say it's a shame they don't have the death penalty, because my thing is that the death penalty is a cop-out. What they should have for people who kill innocent people like that is they should be sentenced to not only life in prison, but 50 lashes. That will straighten people out. That will straighten you out. If you're sentenced to 50 lashings, and when I say lashings, I mean being Jesus whipped. If you get sentenced to being Jesus whipped, you'll be straightened out very quickly. For you to go into a store and start killing a bunch of people because you don't like their skin color. And I'll tell you, I know Black people have problems in America. We do. In America, Black people have a lot of problems. And there are a lot of things about Black people in America that I don't like. I'll tell you that honestly. I'll tell you there's a lot of things that I don't like about my people in the United States. But for you to go around killing innocent people like that, a mother, a child, something is wrong. I have no respect for people like that. No respect for people like that. So with that being said, I'm glad. I just had to say that. It's funny how these things turn out. Let's do some Q&A now, and I'll read some of these comments here. Who films themselves committing a crime? I think some of these guys are provocateurs and disappear in the system, like Epstein's cellmate. I watched that film. He's talking about the guy who shot up that tops. I saw it. I saw it. It was awful. But I don't think that that was an in. I don't think that that was was he a provocateur? Maybe he was. But what is that symbol? I wish we had that picture. I had it a picture of him with that circle on his bulletproof vest, and it was the Azov Battalion logo. You know the Azov Battalion. It is a militia in Ukraine, and they are a neo-Nazi militia as well. You know, Vladimir Putin. One of the things that he doesn't like about the current Ukraine regime is that it's run by neo-Nazis. And that symbol was on his shirt. So was this some kind of Ukraine thing or something like that? Was he a and by the way, I read his manifesto too. He was a very big believer in the masks. In fact, one thing that his schoolmates were concerned about was one day he went to school not in a mask, not even in a shield, but in an entire biohazard suit. And he also talked about how he was a green guy. So, and the reason I mention these things, Patriots, is that he the media likes to talk about how he was this radical conservative, this far right wing. I'm surprised they didn't say that he was an Arana Nation watcher. No, someone like him would not enjoy my channel. Somebody who goes to school in a biohazard suit because they're afraid of coronavirus is not going to enjoy a single second of Arana Nation. I'll tell you that right now. It's funny that people don't like to mention that. I read his entire manifesto to see what this guy was about, and he talks about he's a radical environmental and how he went to school in a biohazard suit. There's even pictures of that too. So someone like that would not enjoy my channel, would not enjoy Kevin J. Johnston's channel, would not enjoy anything to do with me. So let's see. The Freedom Convoy was all a setup. Litch and Barber were brought in to bring out the Emergency Act report for its 50 recommendations to further imprison Canadians. Litch never spent a day in jail. Well, if that's what you think, that might be fine. But guess what? The Freedom Convoy did get rid of Aaron O'Toole, which I called him Aaron O'Trudeau. He supported all the major things that Trudeau supported, got rid of him. It forced a lot of the provincial governments to back off. And I think it also scared the federal government too. So if the Freedom Convoy was a setup, that was a pretty poor setup. I mean, if Justin the Tarface Mac Daddy Trudeau did the Freedom Convoy, let's say he orchestrated it to imprison Canadians, it backfired violently backfired. And I think it also encouraged other Canadians to stand up more firmly too, just like I think I did as well. Instead of just being a Tea Party protester where we just hold up some sign and then go home. No, I think it encouraged other Canadians to really be rough. So if it was a setup, it was a pretty poor setup. Maybe it was, but who knows? Where did Justin grandfather get the money to open the gas stations in Montreal right after World War II? I have no idea. Maybe you can inform us. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't even know he had a next one. Wow, Michael, you're an excellent speaker. Thank you very much, Joan. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. And a critical thing. I like the critical thinker one. I think I like that comment even more than the excellent speaker, because the fact is that I am a critical thinker. I don't believe in just what other people, I like to think. The city of Ottawa closed the shops, not the protesters. Well, yeah, okay, yeah. Next one here. Do we have any other questions or comments? Russia is the only country in the world that has not vaccinated its people. The West said that Russia vaccinated its people, but Putin did not vaccinate Russia. Well, Russia does have a vaccine called Sputnik. And it's funny. Can I talk to you about Sputnik? And this is, it's 9 o'clock now, so this will be the last one. But it's funny. Somebody from Russia who takes the Sputnik virus, or somebody from China who takes the Sinovac virus, they're not considered vaccinated in the West. They're not. That's not considered vaccinated. They have to take a Pfizer one. So tell me again how this is about health and not about control and making money. So please. Remember Adamson Barbecue being surrounded by police to forbid selling barbecue meat, then handed the bill for the oppression. I was at Adamson Barbecue. They locked me up. They put a bag over my head and they had to drag me to the paddy wagon. I didn't walk there. I wasn't going to walk to my prison. If you're going to send me to prison, you're going to have to lift me up and take me with a bag on my head. So anyway, this is the end of the program here now. I will see everybody again next Sunday. This has been a great show. Thank you very much for joining me. I am the Commander-in-Chief of the Arana Nation, and this is the Arana Nation.
If the government of Ontario, the people who make these rules, the chief medical officer doesn't believe that the mask is important, why the hell should I? Listen, no. Ain't doing it. I ain't doing it, especially now.